For the past few weeks, I and many others have been deep diving into rabbit holes concerning these Maui wildfires. And while it's terrible to think that it could be anything other than a brush fire and a windstorm combined to take out a drought-stricken region, there's too many suspicious dots that are connecting too easily. Too much evidence being thrown around that fits perfectly together, to be honest with you. Let's start off with a description of the fires. We've got the island of Maui here, and if you don't know the distance, I'm just going to give distances for later in the video. The whole island, long point to long point, is about 45 miles. On the westernmost side, Lahaina, I'm not Hawaiian, I might butcher these names. That's where the main fires were and where the majority of the destruction and despair is located. Off to the east, there's the wildfires in Kihei and the upcountry regions. Now, they're only focusing on Lahaina or just saying Maui wildfires. So I just wanted to give some perspective that there's three kind of important regions that are the main source of most of these fires. Now, we have a distance drawn on here that's going to become more important here in a little while. But it just gives you an overview how far these things are. What the main thing is the island off there to the west, Lanai, I think it's Lanai, perhaps. That's where the story begins. And we'll start that by saying 10 miles to the east, 10 years ago, the year 2012, a man buys this island for $330 million. 90,000 acres for 98% of the entire island. Who is this man? Well, it's none other than Larry Ellison. Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Who is Larry Ellison? Tech billionaire? Just moved to Lanai. Let's see. He was the founder or co-founder, the executive chairman, CTO, all those stupid names they put for somewhat important people, I would say, I guess. He founded Oracle. If you don't know what Oracle is, just Google it. It's, technology stuff. Not really important. The fact that this man owns this entire island and bought it for $300 million. Which seems like a steal to buy an entire island that's a part of a state. I mean, it'll just beautiful Lanai. Normally there's a charity thing when all these billionaires are described of moving to an island somewhere. They're like, oh, well, they've started a charity to do this or to do that. But with Ellison, he has no charitable interests. He owns the island. He's the sole employer on the island. He owns all the Four Seasons. He owns a spa hotel, medical evaluation, which I guess is just a small hospital. Just kind of insane that this man can own this much. And this is the island of Lanai to the west of Maui. But according to Wikipedia, he was the sixth blah 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 the fourth wealthiest person in the world, which it's kind of odd because I don't really know who this man is. Like, you know, Elon Musk and Bezos and all these other incredibly rich people. They're kind of household names. Larry Ellison. I mean, you can walk around. Most people would probably think he's an old school basketball player from the NBA in the 90s or something. That's what I would think. I wouldn't say, oh, he's the founder of Oracle. So all of this is important because it seems that this little island of Lanai, purchased for $300 million by the fourth wealthiest person in the world, I think it might have sparked a secret real estate war between other billionaires and trillionaires, maybe. I don't know. The trillionaires being corporations such as BlackRock and Vanguard, any other giant capitalist venture firm, corporation that buys up massive amounts of real estate with money they don't actually have. But one of these billionaires happens to live 34 miles from the center of Lanai. A house was purchased in the calm waters of La Perouse Bay. It's the most expensive property purchased in the history of Maui. And here it is. It's a very nice looking mansion with a couple guest mansions and probably a worker family house that people that just clean for him. This house belongs to no other than Jeff Bezos. It's just interesting. He's right there. So La Perouse Bay attracted Jeff Bezos for a lot of reasons. It's a beautiful place. But when a man that's the fourth richest man in the world owns an entire island in Hawaii, you can't not have a giant property that's worth $100 million in Hawaii. So Bezos buys this prized oceanfront estate, 14 acres, and it's actually not that giant of an estate, to be honest with you. It can, all things considered, as far as how rich he is. So, but it was apparently a very, very sought after estate, very talked about real estate listing. Another interesting thing I found while researching the Jeff Bezos thing, I was just adding him to the list of people who lived in the area that might seem a little suspicious, but I came across something a little bit more nefarious, one could say. So the dot down here on the most east side, on the dot that's on Maui, that's La Perouse Bay, Jeff Bezos' private mansion. Now, in an article with some Hawaiian newspaper, I'll link it down in the description, Jeff Bezos said that he loved the island of Maui and he was going to be seeking out more real estate, including a home for his parents and their favorite Montage Kapalua Bay, about an hour's drive away. Now, for your reference, the Montage Kapalua Bay is up here. So he's talking about buying land in this general area up here, which is going to be highly sought after because the majority of this land in the center, you see all this darker green, is a forest preserve, so you can't buy it. It's owned by the government or by the state of Hawaii, I'm not sure. But all the ring on that road around it is privately owned land. Unfortunately for Bezos, it's been passed down for generations by locals, and they all have their houses there. So, just an interesting thing to add to it is that he was looking for land up here, and he is on record stating he would love to find some land up here for his parents. But unfortunately, and only 11 miles away from his estate, he seems to have upset someone else. Someone who was trying to buy that same property. Someone who's bought thousands of acres of land on Maui and who's come to be known as the Queen of Maui as far as real estate goes. Who is that? Well, it's none other than Miss Oprah Winfrey. You see, she's been buying land in this Kula Highland region for years and years. She's owns 870 acres in that area. She just bought another 3 acres there in the past few months or weeks. I'm not sure if it was before or after the wildfire started. But I'm sure it'll come out. This is just the properties that we know about. It's about another ranch from this plantation owner down here, closer to the ocean. And on the complete opposite side of Maui, she also owns land right beside the airport, which doesn't quite concern me as much as these two Highland region ones, because this is a very sought after place. But the land is also very fertile. There's many orchards and coffee plantations and pineapple plantations and all sorts of stuff that grow in this dirt. Very sought after land. I'm going to go back to one of my original pictures here of the location of these fires. And the upcountry one being almost dead near Oprah Winfrey's main digs on Maui, you could say. Her 860-acre property. Kihei being halfway between Bezos and Lahaina, and Lahaina being the area Bezos wanted to purchase for his parents. Just an interesting little quip there. So Oprah Winfrey owns thousands of acres. So what? What does that have to do with anything? She's referred to as Maui's queen. She's actually the largest landowner on the island. What? But so what? Well, when you start looking into this more and more, it's like these properties she's bought are quite suspicious in themselves. She paid $7 million for a farm that was assessed at $500,000, which is just textbook money laundering scheme, like just textbook. I mean, I guess textbook would be someone making paintings and selling them all for $5 and then you reselling them for $5 million, but you know, this is pretty textbook real estate money laundering. She's been poised as a part-time resident for 2 decades, so she's been doing this for a long time. But she's has a charitable foundation providing $100,000 grant to the Women's Fund of Hawaii. The Women's Fund of Hawaii. What does that have to do with you buying most of Maui? Why don't you? And what is $100,000? You spent $6.5 million over market price on your last property, and you're gonna donate $100,000. You know, I mean, I've never donated $100,000. Like, don't get me wrong, that's a nice look, but that is buying love, if you will, buying forgiveness for when people find out that she owns most of Maui, and the billionaires are buying all of the islands in the Hawaiian island chain. So, which brings me to my next point. So what does this all have to do with each other? Well, my suspicions, my somewhat wild theory, is that Larry Ellison has kind of started all of this by buying Lanai for $300 million 10 years ago, mind you. I think since he moved there during COVID, he's been having a lot of Zoom meetings with other important people. These are all recorded interviews and whatnot. But I think he may have been a little braggadocious, if you will, with Jeff Bezos. And while there's no proof of this, I think all billionaires talk to each other. There's secret billionaires clubs everywhere. But I think Jeff Bezos may have gotten a little insulted about not owning his own Hawaiian island when a relatively unheard of Larry Ellison has an island. How does Jeff Bezos not have an island in Hawaii? So he bought the most sought after property on the Maui market when it came available. $78 million. Nice property. Nothing too shabby. And I think that sparked another conflict between him and Oprah of trying to buy up the land. And they're both wanting this upland land and the land up there. So I think maybe the war might have brought them all together, realizing that if they combined resources, combined their great influences and power, that they could somehow buy all of Maui and turn it into a resort with Lanai, make a billionaire's escape, where they're the sole employers and they have complete control. Like a island version of Disney, but with even more power and control. I think they want the entire town so that they can build a bridge or ferry system or something at the shortest point between their two billionaire islands. I think Oprah wants all this land in the middle of the island just because she already owns massive plots on each side. Might as well just connect them all together. Larry's just, he wouldn't mind having a few other billionaires across the waterway. Not on his island, of course, but a short 10-mile boat ride or plane ride. But how do they accomplish this? Or did they smoke a cigarette and drop it in the brush? No, that'd be too simple-minded. But Mr. Larry Ellison and his oracle has been a very important part of a certain military contracted company for the past almost 30 years, maybe longer. One Northrop Grumman. And then when you get on their website, it's kind of crazy because they have this giant cloud, evil looking thing that floats in the sky that has a directed energy, high energy laser solution defending our nation at sea, on land, and in the air. And there's videos of this. This isn't some future weapon. They've implemented this thing. They've taken out boats. They use it to take down planes. It's an actual weapon. And as someone who used to work at a certain military contracted company, I can say that these are pretty common. They're implemented in many different naval vessels, few different aviation vessels, mostly naval. But Mr. Larry, I'm certain Bezos and Oprah could get a hold of some Northrop Grumman guys too, but I think they, along with a certain other giant corporation, may have blasted the drought-stricken brush with a laser. But this other company, one we've talked about a few times, one BlackRock, if you deep dive and have some connections, you can find some information that isn't really supposed to be seen by everyone, let's say. But I don't care. I'm going to share it with you guys. So, right on their website, BlackRock calls for a new regime and new opportunities with a very vibrant blue seawater picture right beside it, which is kind of odd. It has nothing to do with investing. It kind of reminds you of Hawaii. Maybe it's just because we're thinking about Hawaii, but if I saw that picture, I would think Hawaii or maybe Aruba, Caribbean, but probably Hawaii. There are 3 investment themes they want to tackle this semester. Are 1, holding tight; 2, pivoting to new opportunities; and 3, which is the odd one, harnessing mega forces. Mega forces are shaping investment opportunities today, not far in the future. We think the key is identifying catalysts that can supercharge these forces and how they interact with each other. It's just every time I turn the page in this investigation, something just gets weirder and weirder. And like BlackRock having a client-only release of investment themes, talking about harnessing mega forces and identifying catalysts that can supercharge these forces. Sounds very suspicious. Very suspicious. So, we'll recap a little bit with this picture here. The state of Hawaii owns 1.6 million acres. The federal government owns 531,000 acres. School systems owns 362,000. And then a few billionaires combined own as much as the school system. there's something going on in Hawaii, and I think it's literally turning into a real estate war between billionaires and trillion-dollar companies that all want the same thing: to get rid of the locals, to leave them in despair, to have no government assistance show up so that these people are driven to the lowest offers just to save their family and maybe be able to live on the island on the unwanted billionaires' land so they can work for the billionaires as the sole employers. So yes, while it was a little bit clickbaity, I do kind of believe this thumbnail. I think the combined minds and power of Jeff Bezos, Larry Ellison, and Oprah Winfrey, possibly with the help of BlackRock, got together with Northrop Grumman and hit the drought-stricken area with a laser energy weapon that started a massive fire right before a windstorm, perfectly planned. But I mean, this is all a theory. There's plenty of evidence, plenty of dots that just line up perfectly, plenty of page-turning things that every time you turn a page, it seems weirder and weirder. I think as the year progresses, this system of how this land is divided up in Hawaii, I think there might be changes. I think there's going to be quite a bit less that's owned by the state and the federal government. It's going to be processed back to this quote-unquote citizens. But the best land is going to go to the billionaires. The federal government will swoop in a month or two and give a little bit of money after the billionaires have bought out all the locals. They'll get a little bit of a grant, a slap in the face, another $700, if you will. But I would not be surprised to see this chart change drastically in the next few months. So yes, what I'm saying is that Jeff Bezos and Oprah Winfrey teamed up with Larry Ellison, maybe BlackRock Incorporated, to hire Northrop Grumman to fire an energy weapon system at the state of Hawaii, burn down massive amounts of forest, the entire town of Lahaina, created the worst natural, quote-unquote natural, disaster in Hawaiian history. And you might say, wow, this guy's retarded. This guy's crazy. He's probably got a giant tinfoil hat on, believes every conspiracy theory. But I would go so far as to say this is crazier than any conspiracy theory. This is just complete science fiction. And I'll end with that, saying that it is pretty much complete science fiction. But if you go on Northrop Grumman's website, scroll to the bottom of their page, their main thing right now is turning science fiction into reality.